Have you ever had a dream so real you knew it wasn't a dream at all, but a warning? Have you ever seen the lights go out and thought, just for a second, that they'd never come back on again? Draw the curtains, light a candle, and turn off the lights. It's story time. You've entered the 13th Cycle, Chapter 1, The Door to Death. Written by Twyla Hallow. Narrated by Jessica Tygan. Part 1. Before I tell you about the girls, the 3 who are still alive, and the one who isn't, you need to know something about the place where they all lived. Hollow Bay was a mysterious and deeply peculiar town, whose history had long dissolved into myth and whose strangeness had never been explained. It curled around a rocky bay on the Oregon coast, tucked between steep forested cliffs, so that unless you were looking for it, you'd miss it. And even if you did find it, you'd wonder afterward if it had been a dream. Life in Hollow Bay was strangely charmed, as though touched by something beyond human hands. Books in the Hollow Bay Library fell open to exactly the page you needed. If you got a song stuck in your head, it would always play next on the radio. Ice cream never melted too fast, and if you were sad, it would churn up extra creamy. Rain was polite enough to only fall after bedtime, just enough to water the garden, but never enough to flood the gutters. And all the bugs were lovely and well-behaved and never dared to enter your house. Once you crossed the borders of the town, it was as if the world could suddenly twist itself away from everything bad or unpleasant. It had been that way as long as anyone could remember. And as long as anyone could remember, nothing had ever gone wrong. Until one day, it did. Hollow Bay was home to Valwick College. It was old and stately, perched high on the cliffs above the ocean, so picturesque it might have been lifted from the pages of a storybook. If you went to Valwick College, you probably lived in the dorms, since almost everyone did, and Penelope Brighton was no exception. Roommates were assigned randomly. Penelope's roommate was Ella Chambers, a stranger whose name appeared one day in her inbox, neatly typed alongside a room number and building. Room 234, Marin Hall. The email was brief and businesslike. It didn't say much about Ella, only that she was a local and had checked the box marked Quiet Roommate Preferred. Penelope saw her dorm room for the first time on a damp, gray afternoon in late August. She followed the numbers down the second floor until she found the door. She hesitated a second, then pushed it open just a crack and peeked inside. Empty. She stepped in and let the door click shut behind her. The air was stale. One bed was made up with sheets and pillows, a pile of books, and a neatly folded blanket on top. The other was bare. She dropped her bags on it and sat down, the springs creaking under her. She leaned back, ran her fingers through her dirty blonde hair, stared at the ceiling, and let out a long breath. A thought popped into Penelope's mind, quick and uninvited. She tried to push it away, but it stuck. She shouldn't be there. Somewhere deep inside, she knew it wasn't right. Nothing had been right since the day of Penelope's 18th birthday, the day her sister Olivia died. The feeling kept creeping into her mind, as much as she tried to ignore it. It trailed her around like a shadow, rumbling constantly behind her other thoughts like background noise. It kept her awake at night, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it. Her parents had sent her to therapy, but she quit after only a few sessions because the therapist wouldn't admit she was right. But she knew she was. Olivia wasn't supposed to die. She was. The universe had messed it up. Penelope was certain. She couldn't explain how or why, but she knew it deep down. Something had gotten scrambled. And she had proof. Like most residents of Hollow Bay, Penelope's life had been oddly and inexplicably ideal. But after the accident, it stopped. It was the clearest sign to her that there'd been a mistake. The town's peculiar perfection, all its charming little miracles, had suddenly vanished. She noticed it first at the funeral. That was the first time she had ever seen rain fall while the sun was out. When she asked her parents, they brushed her off. Rain always falls during the day, they said. They told her she was imagining things. But was she imagining things when the vending machine didn't give her back exact change, but a few cents short? Or when the bakery sold out of her favorite scones before she got there, even though they were always warm and waiting? Or when the crosswalk sign blinked red even though no cars were coming, like the town was putting her in a timeout? On the outside, Hollow Bay looked like the same perfect town, but it didn't feel perfect anymore. It felt like the town was mad at her. She lay there in the dim room, staring at the ceiling. She'd graduated high school, made it into college, and now the rest of her life was waiting for her. A feeling of accomplishment swelled in her chest, and for a brief moment, she felt happy. But it faded almost as quickly as it came. It lasted long enough for her to realize Olivia would never get to go off to college. And just like that, the cloud was back. She finally shook her thoughts off and sat up. The room was quiet. Outside in the hallway, she could hear the sounds of chatter, heavy footsteps, students stirring, doors opening and closing. It was move-in day. Her eyes fell again on the bed across from her. It was made up with burnt orange sheets and pale pink pillows. Ella had already arrived, it seemed. She had half-decorated the walls, too. The rest of her stuff sat on her bed, in a box, still packed. Penelope stood and crossed to the little cabinet at the end of the bed, flicking the door open. Full of clothes. Ella had nice clothes. She turned back to her side of the room and started unpacking. 3 days later, Penelope had been to Intro to Philosophy, Statistics 1, and History of Western Civilization. She had gotten to know a handful of people in her classes, done some socializing. A little, anyways. Not much. She wasn't exactly outgoing, more the quiet type. But she was trying. By day 3, she was more familiar with the campus, but one thing was nagging at her. Ella was still missing. Ella's bed remained perfectly made, same as the day Penelope got there. The box still sat on it, half full, waiting to be unpacked. The first day, Penelope assumed she was staying somewhere else, like with a boyfriend. The second day could be explained away just the same. But by day 3, the fact that Ella was nowhere to be seen gnawed at her. She thought about it all through class. Towards the end of lecture, she decided she had to do something. Not that she had any idea what. Finally, she settled on a text. "Hi, I'm your roommate in the dorms. My name is Penelope Brighton. I haven't seen you yet. Will you be moving in soon?" Her finger hovered over the send button for a minute before tapping. She stared at the screen. 3 dots popped up at the bottom, wiggling. Then they disappeared. At least she saw it, Penelope thought to herself. Ella never texted back. But that evening, Penelope found a note waiting for her, written in bubbly, perky handwriting on a piece of binder paper folded up, left on her desk with a candle set on top of it as a paperweight. Penelope saw it as soon as she got back to their room that evening. "Hi, Penelope. Saw your text. I'm staying with a friend. Be home soon." The covers on Ella's bed were tousled, like someone had just taken a nap. So that's how it's going to be, Penelope thought. Ella's got a boyfriend. I'll probably never see her. Somewhere else on the second floor of Marin Hall, Scarlett Parrish didn't much care for her roommate, a pretty, slender girl named Madison. Madison was okay, she thought. She just wasn't the kind of girl who Scarlett usually got along with. Madison wore matching sets and Uggs, collected Stanleys. Her parents had money. Scarlett was the opposite. She was broke, she was alt, and on top of that, Scarlett had an intensity to her that usually scared people away. She could feel Madison recoil the moment she walked into their room. This year had already been rough, so Scarlett didn't push. If Madison wanted distance, she could have it. Scarlett never slept well. She had always been an insomniac, and college hadn't helped much. The bed was too hard, the room was too cold. Madison came and went at all hours, never bothering to be quiet. Scarlett was a night person anyway. She got most of her sleep during the day, in between classes, leaving the nighttime for schoolwork. She liked studying in the dark, being alone in the stillness of a silent, empty library. It was the first week of school, late at night. Scarlett had spent hours buried in the library, piecing together a paper on Appalachian burial rites for her folklore and oral traditions class. Now she was alone, hurrying back through the quiet dark of Marin Hall. She pushed through the front door, took the stairs 2 at a time, reached the second floor, rounded the corner, and stepped out into the hallway. Her door was just ahead, maybe 10 steps away. That's when the lights went out, all at once, in one sudden, electric snap. The building plunged into darkness. Scarlett stopped cold. She didn't dare move. The hallway around her vanished, swallowed up by pitch black. There wasn't a hint of light, not even a dim sliver from the stairwell window. Ahead of her in the darkness, something was happening. She didn't know what, but she could feel it, just out of reach. Something settled on her chest, a nasty, crawling sensation like she was being watched from every angle. The hairs on her arms rose, her ears rang. She held perfectly still. Then, without warning, the lights flickered back on. Scarlett flinched, eyes adjusting, but the hallway wasn't the same. The lights hadn't come back alone. Something else had come with them. A door. At the end of the hallway, there was a big, hulking door covered in scratches and gouges and chipping black paint. It was gruesome looking. She could have sworn it wasn't there a minute ago. She glanced at her watch, a chunky retro digital piece of junk she found in a thrift store. 3:07 a.m. Scarlett looked back at the door, wondering how it could look so old and decrepit. Everything in Hollow Bay looked new, always, even when it wasn't. Yet this door looked like it had been buried and dug back up again. It looked like it had started to rot. The air in the hallway had gone cold. She hadn't noticed it before, but now it crept up her arms and down her back, cold enough to make her shiver. She locked eyes on the door, a gaping, empty black square, and felt afraid. It seemed to shimmer slightly around the edges, like a mirage. It pulsed, barely, in and out, rhythmically like something breathing. Something jolted at the base of her spine. Dread. A sick certainty that if she blinked, it was going to open up and swallow her whole. Scarlett realized she couldn't move. She wasn't even sure when that started, just that her feet were stuck now, frozen to the floor. Damn, it was cold. Minutes passed. She didn't dare look away. The door needed watching. She just knew it. The second she blinked or turned or looked anywhere else, it was going to flicker and disappear like it had never been there, like she made it up. But she hadn't. She kept watching. It was bigger now. With each second that passed, it grew a little more. It was stretching up the walls, spreading, breathing, like it was alive. She blinked. The door was normal size again. It wasn't breathing. It wasn't alive. It was just a door. She was starting to feel silly, like she was overtired and overworked and had made this all up in her head. This fantasy about the door, how it hadn't been there a second ago and materialized out of nowhere. The door had probably been there all along. She just hadn't noticed it before. That made more sense. The door had always been there. She was sure of it. Almost sure. She took a step. The lights went out again. In that moment, she was gripped with an inescapable panic. Her throat clenched, every nerve lit up. She wanted to scream, tear her hair out, go flying down the hallway, anything to get away from it. She gulped air, trying to keep herself under control. Why weren't the lights coming back on? Something was wrong. She started counting the seconds. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. She heard sounds. Groaning, creaking. Something was moving in the darkness. 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000. Something was there with her, coming up behind her. She could hear footsteps, feel breath on her neck. 7 1,000, 8 1,000, 9 1,000. She stiffened all over, every muscle tense, braced. Run, she thought, but then something else came just as fast. Don't move. The second thought didn't sound like her. It dropped into her brain like it came from outside. Was someone else in her head? Then, the lights flickered on again. She was alone in the hallway. No one was there with her. She let out a breath and turned her head to look once more, just to be sure. No door. Just a blank wall at the end of the hallway. Scarlett felt dizzy, tired. Everything in her body was telling her it was too late to be awake. She just needed to lie down. She turned away from the empty wall and walked slowly toward her room. Her hand shook as she slid the key into the lock. The door gave with a soft click, and she pushed it open inch by inch, holding her breath. Madison wasn't there. Thank God. No telling how long she'd have the room to herself. Scarlett didn't waste a second. She dropped her bag, crawled straight into bed, and let the mattress catch her. Another week passed. Still, no sign of Ella. She came and went like a ghost, only when Penelope was out. Penelope could always tell when she'd been there because she moved things. Usually her own things, but sometimes Penelope's stuff too. At first, it was harmless. A sweater on the back of the chair had been hung up in the closet. A pair of shoes kicked off carelessly had been lined up at the door. But then it started getting weird. OCD Ella didn't just tidy up after Penelope, she started messing with her, hiding things from her, keys, textbooks, moving her shit around the room. When she came back from class, nothing was ever where she left it. One day, she went into Penelope's closet, turned all her clothes inside out and put them back on the hangers. The next day, she put Penelope's desk chair on her bed. She liked to stack things. Once, she stacked all the shoes up on top of each other in a bizarre Jenga tower right in the middle of the room. Then, there was the cold. Ella started turning the heat way, way down. Every day when Penelope came back from class, it couldn't be more than 40, maybe 50 degrees tops. Like a refrigerator. She would have to crank the heat all night to get it comfortable again, but Ella never slept there at night. Maybe she doesn't have a boyfriend, Penelope thought. Maybe she broke out of a mental ward and she sneaks back at night so the guards don't notice. Penelope used text to register her complaints because what else could she do? She started polite at first. Could we start keeping the room at a normal temp? It's super chilly today. Smiley face emoji. But over time, they grew more annoyed. Ella, don't touch the thermostat again, okay? Just stop. She would always get blue dots, hovering there a few seconds, then vanishing. No response. Ella didn't like to text. She preferred to leave handwritten notes. Sorry, I couldn't find my textbook, so I borrowed yours. That sort of thing. After the closet thing, she wrote, I thought your clothes looked better like this. XOXO. Every once in a while, Ella would leave something totally unhinged. A string of nonsense words, or worse. A few times, she came off like a closeted pyromaniac. One note said, burn it. The next, burn it, written angrily in capital letters with tons of exclamation points. Another begged, you have to burn it, please. Finally, hack it to pieces and set it on fire. Penelope didn't know what it was supposed to be, but it didn't matter. She tossed those notes in the trash and stopped reading the ones that looked like they might be a part of a manifesto. Then, the scratching started. Every night around 3 a.m., soft scratches at the door. Once it woke her up, she couldn't go back to sleep again. At first, she thought it was mice, until the doorknob rattled. She got up once and opened it fast. No one was out there. The next night, she stayed in bed and stared at the ceiling until morning. The next night was the same. So was the one after. Each night, like clockwork, the scratching came, always at the same time. A week later, Penelope got back from class and stopped cold in the doorway. Her desk drawers were all open. Everything inside, pens, notebooks, makeup, perfume bottles, hair ties, gum wrappers, had been removed and arranged in neat piles on the floor. The room was dark, except for a dozen candles lit, flames flickering, lined up along the edges of the desks and the foot of each bed. She blinked. What the hell? Penelope thought. She stood there for a second, staring. She's going to burn the whole place down. She started to type out a text, but then spotted another folded note. This one was sitting on her pillow. Meet me tonight, 307, hallway by the stairs. Need to talk to you. Penelope frowned and bent over her phone, typing fast. You're insane. Stop touching my stuff. I'm going to go to the housing authority if you keep it up. She hit send. A phone buzzed. It was faint, like it came from out in the hallway. Penelope froze, staring at the door, watching the strip of light beneath it. She waited. A minute passed. She thought she saw movement, feet shifting just beyond the frame. Someone was out there. She glanced down at the phone in her hands. 3 blue dots, then gone. Her pulse sped up. She stepped to the door and yanked it open, eyes sweeping the hallway. Empty. No one was there. She drew back into the room, letting the door click shut behind her. She pulled her phone out. "I'm not meeting you tonight, or any night, okay?" This time, the sound was closer. The phone was in the room with her. Penelope's head snapped up. Her eyes scanned the dark. Where the hell was Ella? She hit call, holding her phone out in front of her, the screen glowing bright blue in the dark room. She held her breath. It rang. Once. Twice. Something started to buzz. It was coming from beneath Ella's bed. She dropped to her knees, hands flat against the floor, and pressed her cheek to the carpet. There it was. A phone. Pink case, cracked screen, lit up from the incoming call. She scooted forward until she was right at the edge of the bed, reaching her arm as far as it could go. She hauled it out and stood up. She looked down at her own phone, the chat screen with Ella still open. 3 blue dots waved at her, then disappeared. How is she doing that? Penelope wondered. If I have her phone... Penelope couldn't sleep that night. The scratching came again at the door, just like always, dragging her out of sleep. Penelope groaned softly, turned onto her side, and fumbled around for her phone. Her fingers found it on the nightstand. She pressed the side button. The screen lit up. 3:09 a.m. She let her head fall back against the pillow, eyes still half closed. For a moment, she just lay there, bundled up in the cold room. Then, she sighed, kicked off the covers, and swung her legs over the side of the bed. Outside, the hallway was empty and silent. It felt deserted, the way the world does in the dead of night when everything's asleep. She took a few steps, creeping forward barefoot on the soft carpet, toward the stairs. Definitely no Ella, no Scratcher, not a soul in sight. Wait, someone was there, crouched low near the stairwell. A girl, pretty, dark hair, intense. She looked wired, on edge. She was hunched over, peering around the corner like she was hiding, fully dressed in the middle of the night. She was watching something. "Ella?" Penelope asked, rubbing her eyes. The girl jerked her head over her shoulder, startled, locking onto Penelope. She looked scared, truly, deeply afraid. But then her face shifted, relief blooming across it. "Thank God, someone's here," she whispered, springing to her feet. Her eyes darted to the side. "Do you see that door?" Penelope blinked. "What are you talking about? What's going on?" she mumbled, still foggy. The girl came rushing toward Penelope. She was beautiful in a messy sort of way. Long waves of tangled dark hair that looked like it hadn't seen a brush in forever. Brown lipstick, pencil-thin eyebrows, dark, deep-set eyes, smudged all around with eyeliner. She was dressed in odd clothes, lots of black. Gothy, a little. Cute clothes, interesting, but strange. "Do you see that door?" Her voice was insistent. Penelope turned her head and looked down the corridor. A big, ugly black door looked back at her. "You mean the one at the end of the hall?" The girl let out a shaky breath. "Yes. Oh my God, you have no idea how glad I am to see you." "Is somebody in there or something? Who are you?" Penelope asked, feeling alert now. "My name is Scarlett. I'm in room 217. Scarlett suddenly grabbed at Penelope's arms, clutching them, twisting the fabric in her hands. "Please don't leave. Stay 10 minutes only. Watch it with me. I need a witness." Before she could answer, footsteps echoed in the stairwell behind them. The two girls turned as someone appeared at the top of the staircase. It was a girl dressed in an ankle-length lacy skirt and a baggy green cardigan with the hood pulled over her head. Her hair, long, glossy, and red, spilled out from under it like silk. She was pale and barefaced, with freckled cheeks, pink from the climb. She was rather pretty, but in an unusual way. Striking enough to make Penelope stare a second too long. "Ella?" Penelope asked, hopefully. The girl shook her head. "No, Hazel. Sorry, I came home late. I'm in room 213. Scarlett turned to them, frantic. "Thank God you're both here. I've been here every night for weeks. It always comes at 3:07. It's gone within 10 minutes. It should be going soon now." She glanced down at a dingy old watch on her wrist and licked her lips. Her eyes snapped up. "You have to watch it with me. I need to know I'm not crazy." A gust of air pushed through the hallway. Penelope shivered. She hadn't noticed it until now, but the temperature had dropped. A subtle chill crept up her arms, cold enough to raise goosebumps. Something felt wrong, like they weren't supposed to be there. Penelope looked back to Scarlett. That look in her eyes, panicked, desperate, it made her stomach tighten. This girl was clearly unstable, just like Ella. Penelope started weighing her exits, how to slip away, get herself back to bed politely, without setting anyone off. She had thought up the beginning of an excuse. She opened her mouth to speak when the lights shut off. A thick, unnatural darkness swallowed the hall. Penelope froze. She could feel Scarlett drawing closer, grasping, clawing. Her grip tightened, strangling Penelope's arm. Penelope wanted to flinch, to yank herself away and stumble blindly back to her room, but something told her not to go. She gritted her teeth and stayed still. It was dead quiet, as if the dark had smothered all sound. Everything but Scarlett's voice. She was whispering, breathy, counting seconds. She was up to 7 now. Penelope held her breath and listened to the numbers float past, little whispers slicing through the cottony silence. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Then, just as suddenly, the lights flickered back on again. Scarlett moved, racing down the hallway towards a blank wall. She hit it, hands skimming frantically along the surface like she was searching for a seam she could pry open. Then she stopped and whipped back, eyes wild. "You saw that. Tell me you saw it," she hissed, struggling to keep her voice low in the excitement. Penelope looked past her, blinking at the empty wall. "Saw what?" Hazel took a step forward, brow furrowed. Scarlett was grinning, a little unhinged, almost giddy. She cried triumphantly. "I was right. I'm not crazy!" Hazel stopped beside Penelope, staring straight ahead. "Wait a minute. The door that was just there. Where did it go?" The next day, when Penelope left her dorm room, Scarlett was there, waiting for her. She popped up from the floor the second the door swung open, grinning with eager, manic energy. "Boo!" she shouted, giggling. Penelope jumped, catching herself on the doorknob. "Jesus! You almost gave me a heart attack!" She straightened and stepped back, eyes raking over Scarlett. A torn, oversized tee hung off her shoulder, some faded band graphic across the front. Her legs were bare except for fishnets, one thigh ripped clean through, and heavy black combat boots, laced up. Her eyes were hidden behind huge sunglasses, lips painted dark, white teeth flashing beneath. Penelope scowled, pulling her backpack straps up over her shoulders, and brushed past her into the hall. Scarlett fell into step beside her. She was talking a mile a minute. "I talked to Hazel this morning. She saw the door vanish too, just like we did." "I don't know what I saw," Penelope mumbled, turning onto the stairs and descending as quickly as she could, hoping Scarlett would stay behind. She didn't. Scarlett frowned and adjusted her sunglasses. The eyes beneath were hollow and red-rimmed, like she hadn't slept, maybe for a long time. "You saw it. You said so last night. I've been out there since the first time I saw it. It comes every single night. The lights go out and then bam! Door." They were out of the building now, walking across the pavement towards the classrooms. Penelope turned left, sharp, jogging down a short flight of concrete steps. Scarlett kept pace with her, still talking. "Twice somebody came out of their room into the hallway while it was there, but neither of them could see it. They told me I was imagining things. They said there was never any door, but you saw it. You can prove I'm not crazy." Penelope stopped in her tracks, Scarlett halting beside her. She turned to take in the strange, dark-haired girl. She looked wired, twitchy, positively buzzing. "Are you on drugs?" Penelope asked. Scarlett's eyes bugged out, nostrils flaring. "No!" she snapped, a little too loud. Then she reeled it back in. "Coffee, like a lot of coffee. I'm not sleeping well." Penelope put her head down and started walking again. "Then you imagined it. You're sleep-deprived." "That's such bullshit," Scarlett spat. "Don't gaslight me. You think I hallucinate the same door every night at the exact same time? Bullshit. Besides, you saw it too." "I'm sleep-deprived," Penelope mumbled. "My roommate's been driving me crazy. She scratches at my door in the middle of the night." Scarlett skipped beside her. "No fucking way. Scratches? Like, from the outside?" Penelope didn't like where this was going. Scarlett was a little too enthusiastic about the information. She hesitated, then answered, casual. "Yeah." Scarlett's eyes lit up. "The door. The disappearing one. Someone scratching at it too. I got close to it twice. I almost touched the knob, almost opened it and went inside, only this voice in my head started screaming, 'Don't!' But when I was right up against it, I heard scratching coming from the other side. Are you going to class?" Penelope hesitated. "No, I'm going to the library." "Skip it," Scarlett insisted. "We have to talk." 20 minutes later, Scarlett had called and summoned Hazel to meet them, and the three girls sat clustered around a sticky metal table at the campus cafe. Penelope sipped her matcha latte and stared straight ahead, regretting every life decision that had led her to this moment. Across from her, Hazel pulled her cardigan tighter, a different one from last night, this one big and cozy looking, maroon with pale yellow flowers around the edges. She tucked a strand of red hair behind one ear. She had on pretty earrings, delicate clay daisies that looked handmade. She stared down at her cup of chamomile, frowning. "Do you think this is brewed with tap water?" she asked timidly. "Probably," Scarlett said, downing her cup of coffee and wiping her mouth. Penelope eyed her judgmentally. That girl does not need more caffeine. Scarlett was talking to Hazel, dark eyes flashing. "How come? You only like bottled water? You know it's full of microplastics." Hazel tapped her mug with a short fingernail, then pushed it aside, looking sour. "Something's wrong with the water here. I used to fill my bottle in the dorm, but I had to stop. I can't even brush my teeth with it. They put something weird in it." Scarlett shrugged. Her eyes flicked from Hazel to Penelope, sharpening. She leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Be for real with me. You guys saw the door. Both of you did." Penelope didn't answer. "I saw it. Then it disappeared," Hazel chirped. Scarlett nodded. "I first saw it 3 weeks ago. I was coming home late. I thought I imagined it, but then a few nights later, I was getting back at the same time, 3:07, and the door appeared again. It starts with the lights going out, almost like it's pulling on the grid to generate the door, using enough power to cause a temporary blackout. Within 10 minutes, another surge, and it's gone. Now, I've got witnesses." "Witnesses for what? Are you going to call the police?" Penelope smirked over the rim of her cup. Scarlett scowled. "No, they're probably in on it." Penelope rolled her eyes and let out a laugh. "In on what, exactly?" "What happened to your roommate?" Hazel asked, switching topics hastily like she was trying to swerve around a crash. "Scarlett said she was messing with you, scratching at your door at night." Penelope squirmed. "I don't actually know if it's her. She's just weird, that's all." Hazel's eyebrows went up. "Weird how?" Penelope hesitated, licking her lips. She looked across the table at the two girls. Total strangers, really. Scarlett even scared her a little. But there was something about the way they sat together now. Something conspiratorial and oddly safe. Something told her they might understand. She swallowed. "I haven't seen her since... I guess I've never seen her. She comes and goes when I'm not there. She sleeps in her bed, messes it up, moves stuff around, but she acts strange. She touches my stuff all the time, does bizarre things with it. She turned all my clothes inside out. She leaves me notes. Some of them are in some crazy, indecipherable language. I think she's a pyromaniac. Last night, I found her phone under her bed. The screen was all cracked. She must have left it there, but..." Penelope hesitated. "I don't know. I'm just getting a really weird feeling about her. Where is she?" She could feel Scarlett watching her too closely, like she was being peeled open. Hazel picked up her teacup and gave the contents a delicate sniff. Penelope shifted in her seat. "Last night, she left me a note asking me to meet her in the hallway at 3:07. She said we have to talk. I wasn't going to go, but then someone was scratching at my door and it pissed me off." Scarlett's eyes went wide. "No way. She has to be connected to the door. Maybe she saw it too. Maybe she opened it up and fell into an alternate universe like Alice in Wonderland." Hazel wasn't listening. Her eyes had drifted to the TV mounted on the wall behind them, distracted. She looked paler than before. "What's your roommate's name, Penelope?" Penelope sighed. "Ella Chambers. Have you seen her?" Hazel shook her head slow, eyes still locked on the screen. "No, and no one else ever will. She's dead." Penelope's eyes shot up to the TV. A photo flashed across. A girl, not quite beautiful, but not ugly either. Dark blonde hair, nose a little sharp, chin a little soft, face cracked into a broad smile. Words scrolled by underneath the photo. "Body found at local college." "I'm sorry, Penelope," Hazel murmured. Penelope went silent, staring blankly up at Ella's picture. She heard her cup rattle in its saucer. She looked down and realized her hand was shaking. The news anchor's voice rumbled in the background. "The girl has been identified as Ella Chambers, a student at Valwick College. Her body was discovered in the campus water tank early this morning during a routine inspection, prompted by student complaints about an unusual taste in the drinking water. Police believe the cause of death to be accidental. Scarlett gasped. No frickin' way. You called it, Hazel. You said there was something in the water. You've been listening to The 13th Cycle, The Door to Death. Written by Twyla Hallow and narrated by Jessica Tyga. There's more to come. Don't go